Good day, party people. With the latest ban list coming out and me wanting to come back and look at the set 3 decks that should have been taking hold of the meta with their 4 decks revealed and all the cards that can help them become the best they ever wanted to be. But now with this ban list and purple getting hit a little bit across both knees, things will have a little bit of a shake up. Overall, I have changed this a little bit more, and unfortunately I still think Garen's probably one of the worst decks in the game. Good colouring, not terrible colouring, but Garen himself as a legend and signature cards are weighing them down. So hopefully in the near future set we'll see a update to Garen like we did with Master Yi, and then we can go from there and actually have a good old time. Nonetheless though, let's get into this. So Kha'zix, our first person here, I'm going to say it's pretty consistent still. I don't think she's going to be running the meta. I don't think purple being hit that hard has made her become like the first in-slot card / deck to be pushing any algorithms through. I do think as of, I'm going to say 2.5 now because I've had the ban list, that she probably is moving up the pecking order, but I don't think she overtakes the other 2 better decks than her, or 3 better decks than her currently. I think Draven basically just got kicked off the platform. Irelia, Israel, and probably Fiora are probably now the 3 best decks in the format, with a few other decks sort of pushing more towards the front end. Volibear, fingers crossed for a best of. I still think it's a fairly good deck. The idea is a fairly good idea. It's just unfortunately for Mr. Volibear, it kind of has to work with Dazzling, and if you're not working with Dazzling, Volley doesn't really feel like a deck that's meant to be working otherwise, which I think is probably one of the reasons why they didn't want to hit Dazzling on the list, because it takes out quite a few decks that just don't work anymore. Because if you have to work around the mighty keyword, then you have to spend a lot of lot of runes, and unfortunately, you know, the deck doesn't really revolve around a game plan where you get to just chuck out runes constantly, unfortunately. Jinx, unfortunately, took a big battering in the run there, unfortunately for Jinx, just because she kind of wanted scrap heaps, so scrap is very important for her to get her early game sort of going. Unfortunately so, she just didn't really sort of manage from it. Also, her structure deck is now absolutely useless out the gate. 7 cards in that deck are now unplayable, so as I was also told, it's very likely you're going to find these in a locals, but if you do have something in locals and someone picks them up, politely tell them that unfortunately the deck doesn't work out the box anymore, and you can give them some spares, or you know, you got some purple cards or some red cards they can chuck in. Be a kind person for the day. I was going to put it in here just because it did just win the 1k from the Runes and Rifts tournament. I'm pretty sure I cast this person, I think in round 5 or round 6, and they did absolutely insane. They just dog walked a victor to victory. Nothing that victor could do. Darius' gameplay hasn't really changed. It's just I think people understand like how to roll a little bit better. I also find that TCG Arena has like a very lenient draw gauge. Like it kind of realizes like what you need to make your deck work. Some of the times it does feel like you do draw into like the good cards more often than you don't. So 50-50, but overall I do think that Mr. Darius could be pulling less punches in the near future. As well as there have been some interesting cards coming in set 3. I think the deck is alright. Alright, I keep hearing amazing things about Ari coming through. Apparently she's getting super consistent. All these new spells, she can apparently mess around with temporary a lot more. She can kind of do like a mix of like LeBlanc. She has access to the green stuff. Spellsong is still a very good equipment piece if you want to hold and try and get some extra points going. Overall, I do think Ari is a pretty consistent deck. And I can just see her eventually going into some orange-green deck that allows her just to be full counter-spelly, has Triforce on, has Spellsongers on, and just basically holds at 4 and goes to 8. So overall, she's pretty consistent from what I keep hearing. Apparently a lot of people in the background are playing her, so there must be something good about her that's going on. Lee Sin, I keep hearing, is actually still a fairly viable deck. It's still very good. It's just you have to draw into things, unfortunately. For a lot of the time with Mr. Lee Sin over here, he's not drawing into a lot of things consistently. Dragon Kick's still a very good card. Overall, though, the play and the game style isn't too bad. Going into set 3, I think it's going to drop off a bit more because Orange isn't really caring about buffs even less they did last set. Obviously, there are certain things that give you buffs, but mostly it's experience things. And then Green is also going sort of the route of experience is key, whereas Lee Sin himself doesn't really get to benefit from that, unlike a certain other green and orange person we'll see in a second. But overall, I think it's going to be pretty good. Yasuo, I think, is like best of. I think there was someone who did really well in the Chinese original. I think he got like 118th or something like that. I'll put something in the description of where they came. But overall, though, Yasuo isn't an awful deck. It did just lose some of its movements. So purple Yasuo did just get worse. Scrap heap wasn't like a massive thing in Yasuo because you weren't really discarding a lot in Yasuo other than maybe Traveling Merchants. But again, depending on your builds, may vary. But overall, I think he was doing pretty well. Yeah. So if you might have seen, there's like 12 more stun cards coming in the next set. So Leona's just having her day again. Mixing this with Vex, essentially, you've got 2 green decks that are fully stunned. With yellow for this one, or purple on the side of Vex. Overall, pick your poison. I think Leona's going to be coming back with a little bit more of a bash. Mr. Timo, I'm going to put him in fingers crossed for the best of. Just because with Fight or Flight gone, he just did lose like a big interaction piece. And Timo is sort of more playing like Ezreal has been playing. So now you've lost like some interaction pieces, and Timo is just kind of stuck in that situation where he's not as good as Ezreal, but people are trying. Victor's still pretty consistent, doesn't really lose anything going into set 3. I don't really think there's anything else that's super consistent. Obviously, your big targets now have to change, you know, like Barons and stuff, but generally speaking, Baron's probably going to be like a game finisher, going from 7 to 8 just so you can hold like a third battlefield. Overall, though, I do think that Victor will be trying to do some cool things like, you know, culling the weak and so forth and so on. But overall, I do think that Mr. Victor is going to be staying pretty consistent, as it is a generally good deck for what it does. It's alright. I can see her actually probably going up to being pretty consistent, obviously with the new big monsters, Elder Dragon and the... Come on, Bray, you got this, Baron Nashor. She can definitely go up being a bit more consistently pokeful, both having big units, both being the Aura version. I do think that if you're in orange and you're not going around like smaller units, then you have to just go for those big units, and unfortunately I think Miss Fortune and Siva are both in the same camp. Unfortunately, he's coming down here for the fingers crossed for a best of, because even though he's not a bad deck, I think Fiora's just a better version of him. And then in the next set, Poppy's just a better version of both of those, it seems like. Which is why Garen has his own tier, because no one's worse than Garen. But again, maybe we'll get to change it. I'm hearing it. I'll put my hands up. I'm hearing a lot of people in the background, not just from a certain other caster, but definitely from like a few other people in the background saying like Annie's looking really good right now. She didn't really care too much for the Fight and Flights too much. He says too much. But overall, all the purple and red cards that are left are actually really good for Annie specifically, and that will be why Annie's going to be running around just nuking people. I don't know if she's really going to be here. I feel like she'll just be pretty consistent because she didn't really change too much. Same as Kai'Sa, but I just keep hearing that she's just going to start doing what she did last set. Set 1. OG, I'm going to put down for best of. I don't think he's going to be super fantastical. Obviously, Fight or Flight's gone now, so it's a little bit less scary for when you want to do shenanigans with Lee, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think that this is the plan overall. I think the new Master Yi is much better. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's fine, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Lux, I think, will be pretty good here. We got some new spells, right, that she likes that are going to be expensive. Overall, she's just doing the same thing that Victor is, on a different kind of tempo. Her spells cost a little bit less, though, if they're 5 and above. So overall, I think Lux is pretty good. I think she's seen pretty good. And again, until she basically rotates out, or as of set 4 almost, because she doesn't get to have her metal card anymore, I think you'll see her at least being played. Same as Victor kind of thing, like, you know, they'll just constantly poke you with things. If they get lucky, if they get the draws going, then yeah, it can just be a good old time. Garen gets his own tier because Garen is just unfortunately just 12 cards short of being a deck. Rumble! I want to put Rumble like alright or here, but I've never seen anyone just like run down with Rumble. I do think it's now the fact that his signature is Heimerdinger's signature and not Rumble's signature. Rumble should have a signature that basically is either Fire Spitter or his R that just goes like pick a battlefield and then just do X damage to each unit that's on this battlefield. For each mech, and then you improve it by 1 for each mech that you control, something like that. So let's just say just like 3 damage to each battlefield. Sorry, just 3 damage to a battlefield. and then for every mech that you control, deal an additional 1 point of damage per unit to whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. You'd make Rumble actually pretty broken then, to be fair. But somewhere between here, I think, is where Rumble is. I don't think he's all right. I think he's okay at best, and I think people who are playing Rumble are just hoping for the best of cards. But again, with Draven jumping down, maybe people are going to start playing some more fun decks, just because they prefer to try and actually get best of cards. Lucian, we keep hearing he's the best deck in the format, but I think he's somewhere like here between these two again. I'm going to put him as alright. I don't think Lucian's been doing too crazy. There's been one or two that get through to top 64. Overall though, they just don't seem to sort of get through. I think it might be a case of they just need, I'm going to say this with a pinch of salt and a hope and a step and whatever else, an equipment that says when you conquer or when you move, you draw a card. Just because I always find that this has a specific issue getting draws going. Maybe that's just me. It does always feel like you're always a little bit short on draws, which is why you run Sunken Temple, which is why you try and run a few of the other stuff. But overall, he's alright. I don't think it's a bad deck. I think Dave is right. I think Lucian's a very fun and very compelling deck. I just don't think there's a lot to him. I think he's very one-dimensional, unfortunately. He'd go in, he'd come out, and then you don't have any cards spent. But he's alright. Draven! I think... Listen, he's either going to be best of metal, or he's going to be alright. We're going to put him here, because now you have to play Purple Draven. Because you can play the old Red Draven if you want to from set 1. And that one does get better as the game goes on, as long as you're winning. Which generally, in this deck that's still drawing continuously, shouldn't be too bad. But I think you now have to run the purple one. Without Vital Flight, it's a lot different. But a lot of people forget that you don't normally run the purple Draven in Draven, you run the purple Draven in Aurelia. So you can still just attach free spinning axes to it. It's now just mowing down people. I don't know. I think there's somewhere between I'm alright and fingers crossed for the best of, because Draven is still a very powerful deck. It's just not as consistent as it was before, just because the red one was a little bit too good, and the Draven itself obviously isn't once per turn. Rek'Sai! Oh god, hi. Look, Rek'Sai's my girl. You know I love Rek'Sai. But she ain't doing too well. I'm gonna try and get up on her. Ah, no, Garrett, no, go back. Garrett, no! There we go. Come on, it's bigger. Come on, keep it good. Rek'Sai has fallen off the world. Sorry guys, I'm going to make it look worse now. Yeah, I think Rek'Sai's okay. I think she's not a terrible deck. I don't think she's doing anything wrong. It's just that she has the same issue. I think red and yellow have a weird issue where if you want to get draw power, you have to kill your own things. I think that's the issue specifically for Rek'Sai, that she just can't get enough draw power. Even with her ability to dig into the deck, it just doesn't always seem enough. Sometimes you get super crazy and you go super deep, but there's not enough really good things in Rek'Sai to kind of keep the things going. And I think that's the problem for Rek'Sai. She just doesn't feel like she's ever at enough. Maybe we'll get a support card in a couple of sets. She'll just start feeling much smoother. But right now I'm 50-50 on her. But yeah, she'll either be alright and she'll be top 200 something. Or yeah, she'll be best of. But I think best of is a good place for her. Ornn, yeah, you're definitely just going here, Mr. Ornn. Again, same issue. Voltron is really cool and all, but there's so many different colours that just go, I'm going to ignore your equipment and just beat you up. I'm just going to get... I don't mind using all my runes up and basically winning the game because of it. Overall. Jax is now Garen now. Jax is now for best of because of the Chinese ruling where that you can't just do the detach attach thing anymore, which essentially just cripples Jax, because this is a thing that we thought before. Or I don't know if we all thought that. I thought that was how it worked originally, that you had to equip it to something else and you could just take it from themselves and put it back on again. And this is why Jax was terrible. And then the NA tournament went no, actually you can just reattach it to itself, which made Jax go from C+ to a B+. So it became an actual deck again. And then China went nah, that's not how it works. So yeah, Jax is unfortunately best of. Aurelia, I can actually see Aurelia being, I'm about to run this meta, bitches, because she is so good still. Yes, she did lose Fight or Flight, but she didn't run the other two purple cards. She also has access to Emperor's Divine, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's not a great card. I mean, but it is literally the same thing as Fight or Flight is if you hide it. They're both action spells. They both cost 2. You can hide both of them. So she can just pivot to that one and not have any issues. She still has access to flashes. She still has access to rebukes. You know, she still can do all the things. She's still got all the counter spells that she wants to play with. So overall, I think Irelia is going to be pretty good this meta. Although they're good enough for you girls. So what can I say? Azir, he's alright. I think he's doing better than these guys down here. Azir has generally been picking up. There's always been like 1 or 2 good Azirs. What we see in these, especially in China, there's always been a couple of good Azirs. There's nothing crazy about Azir, but you can run obviously both the no units build and the units build, and they both work essentially fairly well. It just gives you options where you aren't constantly just having to hope on a prayer that they're coming for you. Obviously, there's some cool mechanics in the deck that not a lot of people think about. Obviously, when yellow one moves, if anything is already readied, it doesn't make it unready, it doesn't exhaust it. You know, you can run in with everything. Your opponent tries to take off as much as they can. If they try and force everything back off the battlefield, whatever gets pushed back, you can go back in again for round 2. So overall, it's pretty good in my opinion. Ezreal, I think Ezreal is still pretty much about to run this meta, bitches. He's one of those girls. Everyone's favourite twink. He obviously lost a little bit during this, but you can obviously pivot to the other build. He's still very good controlly. He doesn't dig as deep now because obviously he only has access to the stacked decks. Obviously, that's still, if you can get it 9 deep. At the same time, you can still run blue spells like Stupefy, which you probably already were anyway, so you can still draw 3 cards out of those. The Jin set next is going to have a repeat one that goes, hey, when you can repeat this, so you can draw 2 cards. So overall, I do think it's going to be pretty good in the near future, and I think it's going to be pretty good for next month or so. Obviously, we still have the Spirit Forged regionals to go. We have Lille and we have Atlanta. I do believe it's Atlanta to go still. So that's 2 weeks time and then 3 weeks time. And then obviously in May we sort of flip over. I think Vancouver's the end of May, so that's like our next America one. We've got Sydney, I think, before that one, so it's going to be quite busy for a while. And then in June, hopefully, fingers crossed, I get to go, and I'll be in Utrecht. Hopefully see you guys there. Going very weird now. Yeah, Renata, she's not an awful deck. She's not as good as these two. I think these two are so much better than her. She's so much better in a 2v2 format. Like, she's, I'd say, like an A plus deck in 2v2, but in competitive / solo formats, because of how her abilities want to interact with having a partner, it does basically make her a weaker deck. So unfortunately, if you're going as Renata, you're going for a best of. I've played 2 or 3 different builds of this deck. None of them actually feel comfortable. They always feel really janky. You always feel like you're playing like a worse Victor or a worse Lux. I think if we had some way of like converting coins into like damage, maybe, then it would be better. But like actual damage, not like, you know, converting to a spell or whatever. But overall, she's okay. But yeah, again, she's like really good in 2v2. So if you get a chance to play 2v2, Renata, with any other equipment build or anyone who wants to be aggressive, she's really good with, because she can slow down your opponent. She can do a lot of the killing and damaging while your opponent just does all the scoring. So yeah, she's pretty good. She's good for that, but not for this. Sivir, I can see Sivir coming back as being one of these best decks again. Obviously, she's lost Scrap Heap, so she can't be so diggy. She's lost Cool Shot, so she can't be so diggy again. But she does have Orange. You can dig that. She can go the Dazzling build and still be really good. Obviously, what we spoke about earlier for Misfortune, I just think she's about Misfortune. You know, you can just play the, I'm going to just drop a giant ass Elder Dragon or a giant ass Baron down on the field and just basically try and win the game that way. You know, you just run 3 of each and then have your Sivir in the champion spot, and then you just bring her out, basically, you know, get all your goal going. So overall, I think she's just a slightly better version of Misfortune. Not that, you know, matters too much, but Miracle has essentially just died on a hill, and she has to now pivot to the more control version, which is fine. You know, I'm going to move that down. Let's say it's more consistent. She's such a good deck now because she's not losing like stupidly to like, I'm going to walk in with all my might and go, alright, I'm just going to fight or float you back. Your opponent now has to think about, like, if I want to rebuke it, I only get to rebuke one thing, or if I'm going to do this, I only get to do one of these things. If I'm going to do this, I only get to do 2 of these things. You know, they can't just constantly just like feign fake fights anymore. So overall, she's just in such a better place that it's night and day. But yeah, I can see her finally winning one. You know, she came second, I think, like 2, maybe 3 events. I think 2 events. I could see her basically battling out. It really just does depend. Is purple still stronger than essentially what Fiora wants to do? Fiora only really has 1 counter spell, and that is the issue for the orange and the yellow. Obviously, you can run Unyieldings, but Unyieldings just stops damage, so it is what it is. But I think Fiora's got a good shot now to actually take it. And again, she went toe for toe with Dravens, so she's getting there. I think she's got a chance. Jhin on the other hand is pretty consistent. From what I've heard from people testing it, from what I've heard from people playing it, from what I've heard from people having fun with it, it is a good deck. It has a gimmick. It's a good gimmick because generally speaking, you will just basically get your ruins back earlier than you think. Because a lot of people are like, oh, you have to do 4? Well, it's like turn 2, you can spend 4. Turn 3, you can spend 4. Turn 3, 4, 5, you can spend 4. Do what you need to do. And then on turn 6, you can just go, okay, I now have access to 4 additional runes that are on the side. I can spend them how I want, and then on the following turn, I've got 12 runes open. So it's very easy for Jhin to just go, you know, essentially accelerate to 2 turns ahead. And I think that's what people are forgetting. Like, Jin's, like, turn 6 is better than your... Sorry, Jin's turn 5 is better than your turn 5. So, Jhin has interesting play patterns. I'm sure somebody who's much smarter than me, which is probably most people, will actually show you how this deck is done. I've got a random, like, forecast build in my head that should work, but again, I think Randy was playing with this and he said, like, it was really fun. A few other people have turned up and said, like, he's surprisingly fun and actually good. So, you might just see a random, like, actually good player play this deck. Rengar is pee-pee poo-poo. He is absolute awfulness into the coming meta, just because stun will be everywhere. Vex is going to be meta as hell. I don't think she's an amazing deck, but I think she's very good, and I think she's going to be very annoying to play with and around. You already have a battlefield that says you can't attack, you can't play units here, which means you can't ambush me here. Obviously, Fight or Flight's gone now, so it's not so bad. You can still rebuke something back to hand, so you can ambush you. You can go, okay, I'm just going to rebuke it. So overall, a little bit pee-pee poo-poo. Pyke's about to run some bitches down. He's still a very good red-purple deck. He gets to be aggro, he gets to be controlled, he gets to play the game he wants to play. He's still very consistent. He's very good. Fight or Flight and... I think it was just Fight or Flight. The issue, he lost his Detonate Draw engine, which is fine, because he's still got access to the treasure chests, treasure troves. So overall, he lost a little bit, but it's not too bad. I'm happy that he's still here to play. But overall, yeah, I want to see more of him. I think he's going to be a really good deck. If he's not here, he's down here with Jhin. But I think because of the colour he has, he's just going to be absolutely amazing. Vi. She's alright. I've been playing a little bit of Vi. She's not awful. She's alright. Yeah, she's alright. She's decent. She's basically a red-yellow Fiora deck, if that makes any sense to anyone. Obviously, her signature is equipment. You get to equip it for a power if you've got 3 or more might. And then if you do 3 or extra damage to an opponent, you can then draw a card, which is really good because red struggles with draw power. Her name's Raven. So she's just very good for doing this. You can run the mighty build, so essentially whenever you equip the gauntlet, you go from 3 to 5, or 3 to 6 rather, we go 2 to 5, and you can just basically get all your plays off that way. Vi also has the issue on her legend where she can tap to ready things as well. So it's just constantly, you've got multiple ready situations in the deck, and it's just a very aggro deck that I think people might not see coming. Let's just get super meta. Right, hear me out now. Now look. You just bad, you're a bad player. No, overall, I've played 15 games of Lilia, I've lost 1. And that's not saying, like, because I'm good. No, I'm terrible. It's just the fact that she puts so much pressure onto your opponents that if you ever get to a turn where you can just hold something down, for instance, I had a turn where I had 10 runes up, and I had, I think, 4 spirits on the field, and then another unit, because I had temporary, that made a token. I had a sprite's call that made another token, and that was 5. Lilia Reed's temporary, so I had 3 temporaries in the field, so for cost of 1 I could make a third sprite. Then I played a unit that goes for every, is it Trevor Sleepybottom, whatever his name is? That he makes them all shielded. So yeah, I just bought them out basically and went like, alright, holding down the fort. But yeah, she's very good, she's very consistent. Her game plan is just, I'm going to make a spirit every single turn. It's either going to cost me 3, it's either going to cost me 4 or nothing. No sort of things in between. She probably needs to have some kind of like feel around to like make sure that everything feels like on curve. Run the watchers in her, so basically the spirits just walk and start poking people to death. But yeah, I think she's going to be a lot better than people think she is. She has access to so many counter spells. She's got so much aggro in her deck. She's going to be really good. And this is the one deck I lost to because god damn, man. Yeah, he gained like 6 XP on 1 turn, and it just went from being like doesn't do anything to does everything. Overall, it hits hard and it hits fast. If he gets like a decent opening hand where it's got 2 playable cards, and you can't really do anything about those playable cards, it's just done. XP is such a weird mechanic because you can't interact with it unlike equipment. So I think this is the XP deck that's going to have some issues to deal with just because of it being very good. And the cards in them being very good as well. Unfortunately, unlike Rengar and unlike Kha'Zix, which just their thing is about ambushing. And ambushing isn't that great of a keyword. I can honestly see her being here, similar to Miss Irelia, just because, again, she's going to be stun heavy, she's going to be movement heavy, she's going to start smashing people down, she's going to be moving things around. She's going to wait for you to move something into an area, stun you, gets to move herself in, pushes you back, takes the area, beats you all up. Throws you to the floor, kicks you in the teeth, does everything. So I can see her running this meta. Essentially, it's going to be a case of like what's going faster, what's countering who, because these will have counter spells. This has a couple of counter spells. Come on, you didn't think I was going to put him any higher than this, right? His gimmick is fun. He's got some cool interactions. Unfortunately, one of the coolest interactions was Obelisk, that's now gone forever. But, like, yeah, he's a cool guy. He's got some cool tech. The tribalness about him, which is called Kindred now in Magic, for reasons, but obviously we'll have Kindred, the legend, soon enough, and I don't want to have to keep going. 6-7. So, for the tribalness that he had, where it's dogs, cats, poros, and burbs, I think the idea is really good. I think once we get, like, better things on curve, it will be better. Dogs, cats, birds will be things that are printed throughout the generations of this game just because they're easy keywords and types to put in there. Overall, though, there are some good cards in the deck already, and there are some good cards that are going to do some good things in the game already. It's just right now, right here, he's not so much slow, he just doesn't feel like he's got a lot of urgency, and that's the issue for Ivan. She's going to be either running the meta, or she's going to be just very consistently good. I think she's going to try and be running the meta, but I feel like she's just going to get slowed down by some of these other decks just because they don't want to deal with it. That's the problem. You know what, I'm going to give it to her. I'm going to say she can probably run the meta because she's basically a more aggressive Ezreal. Ezreal's pretty good already, right? So, Diana, I can see these sort of shaping up here. By the way, this does change like during set 3. These guys are probably going to take it for the first, like set 2.5 during this ban list, and then basically when set 3 comes out, I can see possibly Irelia and Ezreal sticking around, but then I think Annie and Fiora's going to drop down, and then these guys are going to push up, so you're going to have like 6 really good top decks, and then like we'll see a couple of events, and then we'll basically see like, it's more like, oh, it's Pike, and it's like Master Yi, and it's Vex, like they're all just basically like mid-range aggro control, and basically that's what you'll just see, basically these 3 decks just doing all the things. Kha'Zix has a similar issue to Rengar. He has a cool mechanic, don't get me wrong, he's got a cooler one than Rengar in my opinion, just because his is more about movement, coming back, getting in, doing his damage, getting your point, coming back. He doesn't really want to hold, which I think is like a cooler way of doing things, but unfortunately, again, he's just easily countered by life. I'm sure someone's going to figure out the build and make him just absolutely crazy, but right now I just don't think he's doing too much. My girl, she's here, LeBlancy. She's coming over here. She makes yellow and blue deck's good and cool. Excuse me. There you go. I think she will just be the best deck for a long time, unless we just get another legend. This is just when you poke your opponent, you win the game. She's so good. The hook build is very consistent. It's very good. The Death Kill build is very consistent. It's very good. The mid-range build is very consistent. It's very good. The control build is very consistent. It's very good. She is very good at what she wants to do. Now, unfortunately for blue, there's no yellow and blue cards that say when you trash me, get extra things, which is probably for the best. But overall, though, her mechanic of making more units and flickering basically bodies and getting additional effects through death kills and just essentially going off and doing her own thing, she's going to be so awkward to deal with just because of how powerful and potent she is. But overall, I think people are going to enjoy playing her and probably not enjoying playing against her because it's just an awkward deck to play into and around. Poppy I can see being pretty good. From what I've been seeing from people and a few playtests myself, she's very good. She's probably the best body and order deck that we have. Like I said, I think like Fury's going to come down here. I don't think Poppy's going to go to the meta. It obviously just depends how many people are playing what decks and how it works out. Poppy is stun reliant. She's a little bit XP reliant. She's obviously in order, so she's a little bit control. She's in body, so she can have some big units and she can do some smashies. Overall, though, she's a pretty fun deck and she's pretty consistent in what she wants to do as well. But there's just so many good things that are already in the meta. I think overall speaking, there's going to be like 5 decks maybe up here that people are running consistently and are going to be like filling up the top 64. These here, you might see 1 or 2 of them making it into the top 64, or at least day 2. Here are your day 2 decks, like especially the bigger events where it's like 260 people come in, and then you'll probably see like 1 or 2 of these, and then like maybe 3 or 4 of these, and then you'll see, you know, most of these here are like in their 10s to 20s overall. And I know really when it says I'm about to run this meta, it should only be like 2 or 3 decks, but I just think, again, because this is also 2.5 and set free, you know, like I said, some of these decks are probably going to take a knee and come down, but then you're going to have a lot more of the newer decks just walk in and go, I run this town. You know, I'm happy to be wrong about Lilia. Maybe I've just been very lucky and I've just been able to like essentially just rush down everyone. It makes the deck feel a lot better than it is. Maybe Vex's stun consistency won't be very good, although our Leona player as was always consistently hitting his stuns every single game, so yeah, that's what it's going to feel like again, except in purple. But overall, though, this is what I'm feeling like. Obviously, again, this is for set point 2 and set point 3. I probably should have done 2 separate videos, but time is of the essence, everyone. Come at me, let me know what you feel like. These I feel like are very set in stone. Garen again is just, you're only there for a best of card, and he's just not really doing a lot. He's trying his best, but unfortunately, when the best is what you've got is a broken baguette, you ain't really doing much. These here, it's just a case of the legends and the decks themselves aren't really doing enough to basically push you too much further, so you are kind of just hoping for a best of card. And then everything else here just has a solid either legend or a game plan, or the colours together just synergistically very well. Despite the fact that, you know, we have Kaiser over here, but then we have Rumble over here. But, you know, when you can reduce the cost of spells compared to mechs do things, he's a little bit up and down. But, yeah, I've been Again Swiftly. Thank you for having me. If you like what you see here, please subscribe and tell me what I've done wrong. And I will see you guys next time, or you'll hear me casting for an event probably over on Ruins and Rifts. So, thank you very kindly, and see you next time. Renata, she's not going bad, but she's essentially just in a best of situation herself. Oh, we're out of space here. Isn't it on the fly?